Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining this evening or whatever time it is that you're joining from for the mentor orientation for Project Short. We'll be going over a couple of different things today. So just a brief overview of Project Short's vision and our mission, an update to the mentor-mentee matching system. Since we did change the matching system a couple of months ago, it got a new revamp. As well as what to expect once you've been matched with a mentee and kind of how to help them through different parts of the application process. So, identifying programs, personal statements, interviews, as well as some resources to help out your mentees. So again, just a brief overview of our vision. Project Short was created in 2019, basically with the goal to kind of combat and address the gap in graduate and medical school admissions processes, and kind of addressing those socioeconomic and systemic inequalities that exist in these admissions processes. And hopefully, as a result, diversifying all of the STEM fields and the pool of applicants to these different graduate and professional schools. So like I mentioned, Project Short now has a new mentor-mentee matching system. So previously, our wonderful pre-grad mentorship team would reach out to mentors via email with potential mentees that might be a good fit based on field and research interests and things like that. But Project Short has grown a lot in the last couple of years, and there's been an overwhelming increase in the number of applicants that we're receiving to request mentorship hearings. So the mentorship team switched us to a more streamlined approach in July. So a quick overview of how this works. Every 2 weeks, you'll receive in your email a spreadsheet of potential mentees, and they'll be separated by disciplines. So first, you'll want to find your corresponding discipline group. On the larger spreadsheet, there'll be a breakdown of what your discipline might fit into the larger discipline groups. And they were just grouped up for ease of managing the spreadsheet and managing all of our different mentee applications. Then on the Google Sheet, you will see something like this. So it'll include, of course, their contact information, so their name and email, but they'll also include information about the discipline they're applying to, their academic status and the year they want to apply, kind of their main concerns and what they want help with, as far as, with their mentorship relationship with you, and also a little bit about what they want their potential mentor to know about them. So it'll usually be a little more detailed than this, but they might include something that they're struggling with in the application process, or maybe how their identity might impact their drive to pursue graduate school. Once you've identified a mentee that you're interested in taking on for mentoring, then you'll want to put your name and email in the corresponding columns, and then you'll want to make sure to check the box to confirm the match. Checking the box in that column is very important because that makes sure that this connects the mentor and the mentee. And you'll know it works because the row of the mentee will be deleted once you check that box, which means it will now be switched over to the other spreadsheet where you can check your mentorship matches. So again, once that checkbox is clicked, Project Short sends an automated email connecting you and your mentee. And after this connection, your mentee will be expecting an email from you in about 5 business days just for that initial contact. And on our mentorship team side, if a mentee remains unmatched for a couple of weeks, we might reach out the old way. So reach out to different mentors via email just to make sure that all of our mentees are able to be paired. And there's no limit to how many mentees you can mentor. So you can mentor as many as you'd like or as many as you'd have bandwidth for. But on average, most mentors in Project Short work with about 1 to 2 mentees at a time. Okay, so now you have gone through the spreadsheet and you've found a mentee, and now you have been connected with your mentee. So what happens? Again, they'll be expecting to hear from you within 5 business days. So we recommend scheduling an initial Zoom call if possible, just to get to know a little bit more about your mentee. And in this introduction call, you can set different goals and expectations with your mentee and see how you can help them throughout the application process, especially if this mentee is in the active application process. And as a mentor, just a reminder that while working with in-cycle applicants, so those are applicants that are applying this current cycle for matriculation next fall, that turnaround time from submission of their personal statement, CV, other application materials is 72 hours. But of course, just try your best to keep your mentees in the loop about your availability. I know we are all busy grad students, so things can come up. But it can also be helpful to schedule regular recurring meetings with your mentees or maybe regular just email check-ins, things like that. But you can always reach out to us if you are having trouble connecting with your mentee or any other things that we can support you with in your mentorship relationship. So just a brief overview of the application timeline for our current in-cycle applicants. We're in that October-November stage. So right now, applicants are most likely editing their application materials. So things like CVs, statements of purpose, diversity statements. Um, Hopefully, they have already identified some schools and programs of interest, but that could still be happening at this stage as well as opening the different application portals. So this can kind of happen anywhere between June through November. As we move forward into late November through December, many applications are due around November 15th through December 1st, depending on the program and the school. So mentees will want to finalize their materials and submit at that point. And then January through March is typically when mentors and mentees will want to prepare for those interviews and complete those interviews. And finally, decisions are often due around April or May. So helping your mentee identify schools and programs of interest, there's a couple of things that you can consider. The first is, have they or do they plan on taking the GRE, especially for applicants who might be applying next cycle? This is something you can put on their radar. But you can also look at schools that do not require the GRE. I know many schools removed that requirement as a result of the COVID pandemic, but some schools may have reinstated that requirement. So it's important to take a look. Some other things to consider would just be what are their post-grad school career goals, and what programs really excel in their field or with their research interests and might have the most resources for them in order to complete their desired research projects. Um, if your mentee is hoping for help curating a list of schools that might be a good fit for them, you can always reach out to fellow mentors on Slack. There are a lot of mentors in a lot of different fields, so they might know of some different programs that might be a good fit. Or you can encourage your mentee to talk to current academic advisors, lab advisors, senior grad students, things like that. And also just a quick note to look into application fee waivers. So Project Short does have a few fee waiver partners that are on our website that you can direct mentees to. But schools also often have application fee waivers. Once you open the portal, there might be an opportunity for fee waivers or scholarships, or potentially some programs may host virtual open houses in which they may give a fee waiver at the open house as well. So moving on to helping your mentee with their personal statement, statement of purpose, statement of intent, things like that. Some important things that you'll want to make sure your mentee includes are just why are they interested in pursuing graduate training or their chosen research area or their research interests, kind of what got them interested in the research area that they're pursuing. They'll also want to include some past research experiences and outcomes, and how those experiences have kind of led them to want to pursue graduate training or continue in their chosen research area. Relatedly, their long-term goals, so including grad school and beyond, what are they hoping to do in their chosen research area, and what career goals do they have in the long term? And finally, kind of wrapping it up in that conclusion, why that particular school or program is a good fit in relation to the things that we just talked about. So, why, for example, a faculty member or faculty members, a research area or program at that school is the best fit for them to kind of achieve their long term goals and pursue their research interests. Something else that is becoming very common for applications in grad school is a diversity statement. So, this is something that would outline the applicant's personal experiences and values as it relates to diversity, and how that personal background or those values can contribute to different principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Um, in addition to personal background, it can also be related to diversity related activities. So that can be contributions to diversity through things like volunteer work, teaching, research, service, student groups, things like that. Um, it's up to your mentee how comfortable they are kind of talking about their personal background, or perhaps they'd rather talk about diversity related service and activities. You can help them kind of find the balance of how they would like to write their diversity statement. Some tips for editing, largely the personal statement or statement of purpose. We recommend just focusing on the big picture. So, kind of addressing more of those larger areas as opposed to getting down at the nitty gritty and rewriting maybe individual sentences, or just copy editing. You'll want to make sure to maintain the voice of the writer, so not just making edits to have the statement mimic your specific writing style, but still ensuring that the statement is in the voice of the writer. Also providing specific suggestions on what can be improved or maybe areas that could be refined. So not just describe more, but maybe going into detail of what's missing and how they can improve or provide more detail in a certain section. On the other end, you can also identify areas that maybe can be more concise or streamlined. So, oftentimes in statements, maybe they explain more than they need to and can really describe their experience in some more concise or clear language, as opposed to in a longer paragraph. Once you get to interview season and how to select program offers once those are released, for interviews, we recommend helping your mentee craft an elevator pitch of their research, their background, previous activities. So, just a quick 60-second pitch of who they are, what their experiences are, and why they're interested in graduate training. Some schools might also ask interviewees for a 20-minute chalk talk of their previous research. So getting them comfortable with speaking for a little bit longer, kind of like a short presentation style of what their previous research has been on. You can also help your mentee out by conducting mock interviews. Project Short also has a larger mock interview event that will be happening where mentees can sign up for mock interviews with other mentors. But of course, it is helpful if you're able to meet with your mentee and do a mock interview as well. And you can also discuss what program red flags to look out for or what questions to ask during interviews. So your mentee can really get a good idea of the faculty, the program, the school, what resources are available in that graduate training program. Once they've made it to the program offers stage, have your mentee consider more things than just, for example, research, fit with faculty, and maybe the prestige of the institution. So things like diversity of the program, work-life balance, what do the students do outside of work, what support is there for incoming students, especially for international students, and things like location and finances and stipend are also something to consider. For international mentees, Project Short does have a lot of applicants that are international students. And just something to keep in mind is that they might have additional application materials that they'll need to submit, or a pre-application for international students. So this just might shift the timeline a little bit earlier. International students might need to prepare materials a little more in advance than students who might be applying domestically. International students might also just need to be more strategic in their school selection, as not all schools or programs might guarantee funding for international students or may require that they find outside funding. You can also provide your mentee with some resources that we have available. So we have an F1 visa application overview handout, as well as a language exam handout for international mentees. So those are listed on our resources page, or of course, you can also reach out to us and we can email you a copy. Um, this is just a page with some of our resources. Again, we do have that resource page, but something else that is very helpful for our mentors is our PhD mentoring handbook that's updated every year, and kind of goes into more detail of what we've already talked about today in this orientation. We also have an X or Twitter page where we repost different open houses, applicant assistance programs, mentoring programs, and things that might be able to benefit your mentee during the application cycle. And of course, we also have our YouTube channel where all of our pre-grad programming events are uploaded, and our podcast as well. And these are just some other resources that may be helpful for your mentees to read. These are just some various different application guides for different STEM fields. So either STEM broadly or maybe some field or discipline specific application guides that could be helpful for your mentees. Okay. Well, those are all the slides I had for you all today. And I'm not sure, Ananya, if you had anything to add, but otherwise happy to answer any questions.
Hi, Kylie. Thanks for doing such a great job. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say that, sorry, I did scare my friend in the lab, that I'm still here. But I was gonna say that we did the new mentee mentor matching system, and if you had doubts about it, you can ask us. It's still not perfect, but we are hoping that we don't lose any mentees. So I've been going back and asking every mentee and kind of checking in with people to see that the match has happened if there is no email record. And the one thing that I'm observing that I did want to point out is sometimes the automated email is not going through, and it's only going to the mentor and not the mentee. So we definitely are looking at that and just resending it to the mentee. So you don't need to worry if it didn't go through, but you can also kind of send it to your mentee because the email comes out on the spreadsheet. So I just wanted to add that that's the only issue that's mostly been happening and can impact you or your mentee because you would receive the email, but your mentee won't. But we will fix it, but we're not trying to go into the weeds of it right now because all we want to do is match everyone. And I just wanted to say that we have had 600 applications this year, and we've only matched about 50% of them at this point. And we have also told a lot of people that we just can't do it because it's still pretty close to the application cycle. And we close the Menti application forms as well so that we can just try to match whoever's there. And so if you know a friend or anyone who would be interested to mentor students, like please ask them to join Project Shot, and it's really just helpful in that sense.
Yeah, thank you, Ananya. That's super helpful context. Any other questions I can help answer? You can also put them in the chat if you'd like. Okay, I'll go ahead and stop recording